Hey everyone, and welcome back to the official Valorant tier list by SkillCapped.com. With patch 5.0's release, we're seeing the release of a brand new map, as well as the removal of one of Valorant's first maps, Split. Although there were no crazy agent changes this patch, the meta is going to absolutely shake up a bit given the changes to the map pool. So that's why it's time that we keep you all up to date with what agents you should be playing right now. But before we get into it though, let's break down a bit of what you should expect with Valorant's newest map, Pearl. Pearl is what we would describe as a bit of a mix between Haven, Breeze, and Ascent. There's a lot of little corners and cubbies that are going to be pretty annoying to clear out, but aside from that, the map has a ton of open space. Oh, speaking of open space, the map is pretty massive. Rotation times can definitely become an issue for defenders, and mid-control seems very necessary. Now, although this entire tier list isn't going to be revolving exclusively around the new map, many of the adjustments in the tier list you'll see are made with their strength on Pearl in mind. Optimally, we'd have an individual tier list for every single map, but this list is mostly just to help players assess an agent's overall strength in the game currently. Remember though, if you're really looking to master Pearl, we have a whole course dedicated to the map on the site right now that will teach you all the tricks that you need to know to stomp the map on release. Over on the site, we cover all the best agents, areas to control, and even some other stuff that's sure to win you so many rounds. More on that at the end of the video. Starting out though, we're going to cover everyone's favorite agents in the S tier, but this time with a new addition. Jet and Chamber are still your premier S tier agents. Even with the addition of Pearl, these agents are hardly affected by any map release because they're so versatile. Their specialty is that they can take duels pretty much anywhere and get out, which will always be useful. That being said, there is something to be said with Chamber, how he only has his one tripwire on such a massive map. There definitely is the possibility that Chamber will get swapped out for a Killjoy or Cypher on Pearl, but let's be honest, in ranked, people aren't going to stop playing Chamber. He's just too strong. The new addition to our S tier though is actually going to be KO. Pearl seems like a map that KO is going to be absolutely essential on. Some might even say this map was made for him. His knife tags nearly everything on the map, making him already incredibly valuable, but even more, you can flash through all these random windows all around the map. KO pop flashes are going to be an absolute nightmare in this map with such open space. For KO, Split coming out of the map pool doesn't make too big of a deal. It wasn't his strongest map to begin with, and although he was pretty good on it, the addition of Pearl only makes him all around stronger, and he's going to be an absolute menace as time goes on. Moving into our A tier, Raze is still incredibly strong, and on Pearl, it's no different. It does suck for Raze a bit because Split was removed, and that was easily one of her best maps, but with all the downward slopes on Pearl and tight spaces, Raze is going to be super strong to establish map control and find those cheeky grenade kills. Her utility just provides so much value, and although she's losing one good map, she's gaining another, and that's why more or less Raze's place in this tier list stays the same. An agent that is finding herself just slightly higher this time around is actually Fade. Fade slowly is starting to overtake Sova a bit, and it's definitely a little refreshing. Fade performs pretty well on Pearl, being able to throw her eye over top of pretty much everything. Also, with all the sites being so small, her ultimate gets a ton of value. Overall, Fade is a very strong initiator right now, and a super strong pick on really any map. An agent making their way up to join her though is Skye. This is a little bizarre, seeing as Skye has never been placed above Sova on our tier list, but with the release of Pearl, Skye actually has a ton of value. The open areas, the small corridors for her dog, and many routes for her ultimate, Skye is going to be incredibly strong on Pearl. Although Split has been removed, which was a map Skye saw a bit of play on, overall Skye is in a really good place right now. Lots of potential for this agent. One agent actually making their return to the A tier is Astra. Believe it or not, Astra has slowly begun to see more play over the last few months, and not only that, with the release of Pearl, she is actually quite a bit of value for her teams. At the start of the round on the new map, it's often a quick dash for space, and Astra is really excellent in those scenarios. Her ability to place smokes almost instantly is super valuable. Not to mention her ability to shut down any early aggression with her suck ability, Astra actually finds quite a bit of value on this map. Although she does require a bit more coordination to play, Astra is still a very powerful agent in the right hands, and we highly recommend picking her up. As for the initiator we've all grown to hate a little too much, Sova is being brought down just slightly more and more as time goes on. Sova is still super strong, and actually the removal of Split in the map pool doesn't affect him at all. There's no way Sova is any worse on Pearl than he was on Split. Well, because of the drone nerfs, it's actually pretty hard to find a ton of value out of Sova's drone on this map. It just doesn't cover enough space. Although his recon dart is still nice for scanning early info, it really sucks when his counterparts are able to clear these close areas way better than him. For that, Sova finds himself a bit lower this time around. And if you're not going for any of those initiators mentioned, you might actually be opting for a Breach. Breach has been climbing his way out of the lower tiers for quite some time, and now for probably the first time in ages, Breach is actually making his way into the A tier. We're in an initiator meta, and Breach actually brings something to the table no other initiators are able to. Weirdly enough, it's his stun. For some, this may sound really weird to hear, but Breach's stun basically makes it so his team can take control of any area of the map at the start of the round. First, it started out with Fracture, but now teams are picking him up on Haven, and we think he will actually be very strong on Pearl as well. Although he doesn't fare as a solo initiator too well, and that's why he finds himself lower than the other initiators, Breach is still very strong, and we recommend you add him to your agent pool. Bringing us down to the B tier though, we've got quite a few agents to talk about. Killjoy is the first of those agents, making her way up slightly from last time. Killjoy has a ton of potential on Pearl. Her ultimate is absolutely incredible for both retakes and for executes, not to mention her mollies are going to be super helpful for fighting over many key areas around the map. Along with this, Split being removed doesn't really affect her too much, seeing as it's not like it was her #1 map anyway. Overall, Killjoy's in a really good place, and it's very likely you'll start seeing quite a bit more Killjoy in the meta. Viper is another agent who is weirdly making her way down to the B tier. She has a bit of potential in a new map, but it's going to take players a bit to learn how to use her. Not to mention, since Split was a pretty good map for Viper, this patch might sting a little bit. Nevertheless, Viper will always have her place on Icebox and Breeze, so don't be sad if you're a Viper main, she's not going anywhere. Same thing can be said for Omen. He's still hugging his place right next to Viper. You'll generally run one or the other, but overall, Omen is still incredibly strong and will likely be one of the go-to controllers on Pearl due to his ease of use. That is most often the biggest strength of running an agent like Omen. He's so versatile and convenient to play, so don't worry, he's not going anywhere. There is an agent that we are moving up to the B tier this time around though, and it's actually an agent that you all seem to comment about almost every tier list. That's right, you guessed it, it's Reyna. Reyna isn't the perfect agent by any means. She has a ton of faults, and on most maps, she's more of a liability than she is an asset. However, on Pearl, it's a bit of a different story. There's a lot of really random cubbies on this map that allow Reyna to just tuck in and get a kill before dismissing away. Not to mention her blind is actually pretty good for scaling up on certain parts of this map, namely in mid or on A site. Reyna isn't broken by any means, far from it, but we do feel like she'll have a ton of potential on the new map, at least early on, so bumping her up to the B tier is absolutely no problem. Another agent you may opt to play though, if you're looking for that carry potential, is actually Sage. Sage has always been a super strong agent, with just an incredibly useful kit. It's so easy to find value out of Sage's kit, and that's part of the reason she will always be a solid pick. With all that said, Split was widely said to be one of her best maps, and with the removal of Split, she's going to take a bit of a hit. It still seems like she'll be as useful on Pearl as she is on other maps, but definitely doesn't seem broken so far on release. For that, we'll be placing Sage down in the B tier. Brimstone is an agent that is familiar with the B tier, having been there many patches before. He actually looks to be pretty decent on Pearl. Honestly, it'll be a toss-up to see if most matchmaking teams pick Brimstone or Omen out of the game. Due to the sheer size of the map though, it's likely that Omen is favored a bit more. At the end of the day, Brimstone can struggle when he's not able to smoke across the map for his team, and Omen has this problem way less. For that, Brimstone finds himself just a bit lower. For our final agent in the B tier though, we have Yoru. Yoru is actually an agent whose kit may be a bit overloaded right now. 3 reposition abilities, basically a 100 credit drone that flashes, and 2 throwable flashes that can be used for teammates. Even just saying that sounds ridiculous, but that's what Yoru's kit is. Yoru's potential is definitely being slept on a bit. I wouldn't be afraid to pick this guy up, but right now, in the current meta, you likely will be finding more value from picking Raze or Jett in most situations if you're looking for a duelist. Moving on to our C tier finally though, Cypher is actually our newest addition. Coming down from the B tier sucks for Cypher, and to some of you who follow the meta closely, you may be wondering about this. Cypher actually is an agent who's been seeing more play recently. A little bit on Fracture, some on Breeze. On Pearl even, Cypher might actually have a lot of value. Due to the open sky, you can actually find a lot of really cool cameras to use for Cypher. However, his tripwires are a different story. For his tripwires, you can pretty much only use them for info due to the map geometry, and it sort of takes away a lot of Cypher's anchor potential. In matchmaking, this is a crucial thing to note, and at the end of the day, that's what brings him down here. Cypher can be good in the right hands, but oftentimes he's far more complicated to play than just a chamber, and that makes him not nearly as worth it. An agent that is a bit similar in that regard is Neon. Neon is an agent that actually has been seeing a ton of play in tournaments, and that's partly because she's so good at following blowing up her teammates' utility. You can run some really crazy strats with Neon if you have the right support. However, if you don't have the right support, it can be a bit more rough to make things happen. Sometimes you'll just find yourself running to your death, far faster than towards any kills. For that, Neon finds herself in the C tier. Finally, I think it's time we introduce a D tier to our list, or at least for the time being, we can call it our Phoenix tier. Phoenix is just outclassed in everywhere still, and on Pearl it's no different. He's kind of fun to play though actually. Being able to ult and run it down provides a fearless playstyle where you've really got nothing to lose. But when he doesn't have his ultimate, he's far less fun. His abilities suck, and until he gets a rework, he's staying in the D tier. That's gonna do it for this week's tier list though. Be sure to let us know in the comments what you think. Do you agree with our placements? We'd love to hear feedback. Also, don't forget to check out our brand new course for Pearl live on the site right now. In this course, we'll break down all the best agents for you to play and how to play them. We'll also look into the different areas you should be controlling on the map, how to play attack and defense, and even some of the best spots to be using your utility. Remember, everything on the site is backed by our rank improvement guarantee, so if you don't find the value you're looking for, it's literally no risk. Be sure to check out SkillCapped.com today, and we'll see you in the next video.